Hi guys, Az here. This week I'm actually too busy to do a furry comic review, so I thought I'd do a quick tier list of all the stuff that we've done so far so you can kind of see them compared, or if you haven't seen all my reviews yet. The Grand Library waits for no owl, so I just thought I'd throw something fun together this week. Sorry, some of the comics that I'm reading are rather long, and I do want to do my due diligence if I'm going to do reviews of all of them. So, tier list just for fun. I think there's 22 comics here. So if you haven't seen like all 22 of these videos, I don't expect any of you have, but I just grabbed my thumbnails from each video to serve as the markers. I've got must read, A tier, B tier, C, D, and don't read. So I'll do some editing off to one side so you can see the title of the comic that I'm talking about, etc., etc., a few extra doodads, and then just kind of throw it up on YouTube. So sorry there's no proper video this week, but I thought this might be fun. So these are in no particular order, at least I don't think they are. It's also my first time using Tier Maker, and this is completely unscripted, so I may ramble for a while, and I apologize in advance. Anyway, well, let's just grab one. What's this one? Timberlane. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I actually throw that right up into A tier. I mistook it for like a Disney project because the artwork is so good, the characters are so good, the setting is interesting. You know, a 2 or 3-year-old human girl gets found by a bunch of furries and taken into their separationist village that's out in the middle of nowhere, where you're not allowed to talk about the outside world because there's a big plague going on out there, and you're not allowed to talk about the past, about how the village was made and stuff. It's basically a cult under some very wholesome disguises, but the artwork is amazing. So Timberlane is probably one of the most beautiful furry comics out there. It's going straight into A tier because, man, it is so good. Let's see. A Modern Mogal. Modern Mogal is unfortunately not really a story so much as it is a bunch of pinups with like jokes around them. So if you like Dragon Girls, if you like monster girls of any kind, if you like zombie girls or robot girls or just anything like that that could serve as like a pin-up on your corkboard or something in your dormitory at college, that have like comics attached to them to the side. If you like, you know, thick thighs and big butts and big boobs and stuff like that, it's a guilty pleasure. There's not a lot of substance to it, unfortunately, so I'm gonna throw it into probably C tier, middle of the road. Now remember, according to this chart, you know, there's only 6 grades, so C tier is like just middle. It's not good, it's not bad, it's yeah, it's just middle. So you're not going to learn anything, you're not going to philosophize about anything. It's just kind of a horny short joke comic that just kind of comes out now and then. There's censored and uncensored versions of everything if you like big boobies, or if you like dragon girls that are dressed like maids, or I think Death, the incarnation of Death, is a cat girl in this comic. So it's fun, it's sexy, it's not too deep. So we'll put that in C tier. Let's see. Joanna Ghost Hunter has a lot going on, and it's, you know, it is what it says on the tin. Probably gonna put that in C tier also, but like a high C. Joanna is a ghost hunter, and quite frankly, I've not seen any comics, much less furry comics, that cover like the ghost hunting genre, because two of my favorite films are the Grave Encounters movies that kind of spoof on all those old ghost hunting shows you'd see on cable television. Joanna is haunted by a spirit, even though she's never actually captured one on any of her equipment. And her best friend is a living, breathing telekinetic, which is very interesting, especially since his powers don't work unless he is like really upset or traumatized, which is not good if you were in, say, a kitchen full of knives and other sharp objects, so it can get dicey really quickly. But there's a lot of heart and soul in Joanna Ghost Hunter, and the story isn't quite there yet. Um, it's still in its early and in its like embryonic stages as far as like taking hold of its concept and going out and doing something great. But the building blocks are definitely there. So it's like on the fringe of almost being a B. It's a very high C. What else do we got? Angel in the Forest. Yes, another. There's a lot of gay romance on this list, actually. Um, the world has ended in a horrible nuclear winter. The humans are all gone, and the animals are rapidly evolving into anthroforms. Um, Bats become carnivorous, mice become the prey. You know, everybody's just trying to get by, everybody's just trying to find food and not get eaten, or find food and not starve. Um, Houses and science complexes that the humans built are suddenly these sprawling metropolises that are made by all the small animals putting stuff together for themselves. It's a very interesting world setting. Um, with an interspecies romance between a bat and a rat, that plays out over hundreds of pages, which starts out with like Stockholm syndrome because the bat is keeping the rat someplace, but much like the Beauty and the Beast story, he says, you know, you're free to go if you want to. But by then he's kind of imprinted on this guy. It's a little 50-50 for me as far as whether this is a legit romance or not, but it's very cold, it's very melancholy. This comic will make you feel things for better or for worse, and again, I think the best word for this comic is melancholy because it's so cold, it's so dark, it's so desperate all the time. Um, I would probably put The Angel in the Forest in B tier because it has excellent world building, though it doesn't always use it. It does have a lot of shipping that kind of took over the comic in the late stages, but it has very strong world building, it lays out the rules and then it follows them relatively well, which is more than a lot of comics can say. So we're going to put that in B tier. Um, let's see. The Art of Silence. The Art of Silence is a very meta comic that not a lot of people may enjoy very much because it's a representation of the hero's journey, but it's steeped in metaphor. It's steeped in, you know, this actually means that, and this represents that. And you could sit in a philosophy class and argue about this one. And the art style is very like Dr. Seuss, like really whimsical, really scary, really shapeless, formless, asymmetrical. The Art of Silence, I don't know, you kind of have to be in the right mood for this one, and that's not to the detriment of the story, because it's literally just a representation of the hero's journey with characters that have names like the Return Bird or the Mortuary Bird, you know, things that this represents death, this represents you never going on your quest, and they are now big scary birds that serve as the antagonists. Like it's kind of on the nose, but there's plenty to argue about and like philosophize about with this comic, which it's not there to tell a phenomenal story. It's there to be like artsy, if that makes any sense. So probably I'd put it above Modern Mogal because it is very good art, and probably above. See, the problem with this is once you start putting these up here, you have to say, oh, is this better than that, like comparatively speaking? So I'd probably, compared to what we have now, I'd probably put it in B tier because this is high art. You need to sit and look at it and understand the art of silence to really appreciate it. It's not the most phenomenal furry comic out there, but it is thought-provoking, which I think is reason enough to read something. What else we got here? Ample Time, the the very slow lesbian mating dance comic. Yes, the two childhood sweethearts, well, childhood friends, childhood acquaintances, I guess. Let me back that all the way up. Childhood acquaintances that eventually met in college again. One of them is the scared wallflower that has social anxiety, and the other one is a pro swimmer who is also a pole dancer. So if you enjoy that sort of like shy girl and domineering girl, like lesbian romance kind of thing, it is a very solidly built comic. Unfortunately, with 200 plus pages, we haven't even gotten to the first kiss yet. So if you're going to read this, you need a lot of patience. I have actually gotten a message from the author on this one saying, the romance is coming, the romance is almost, we're getting to that part, I promise. But there's a lot of solid building blocks here that you know who they are as people before any kind of romance, before any kind of relationship starts. And I can appreciate them putting in the time, putting in the effort, doing the exercise to build their personalities, to build their lives around them before the relationship starts. But I'm kind of impatient when it comes to romance comics. I don't like it when we pussyfoot around for ages and ages and ages before the couple gets together, you know? I want to get there and have them be kissy face and going on dates. I want to see the cuteness and the sexiness. And it's a really slow burn, like probably the slowest burn romance I've ever seen thus far in reviewing furry comics. So I'm going to leave it probably right around mid C. It's like Joanna Ghost Hunter has a better premise, and Ample Time just needs to get there. And once they start like holding hands, going on dates, and actually participating in activities as a couple, 200 plus pages in, then I could probably put it in B tier or maybe even a low A tier because the artwork is fantastic. So when they get there, this will be a phenomenal comic. Doghouse. God, the worst furry comic I have ever read. This, god damn. Let's go ahead and throw it in don't read. Doghouse follows a college student who refuses to grow up, who refuses to choose her college major even though she's 2 years in. She suffers from anxiety, she's demisexual, so she doesn't experience sexual attraction unless she's like really close friends with that person. She's just got problems upon problems upon problems, and she doesn't have any the main character doesn't have any redeeming qualities. And I actually went back and tried to do my due diligence, and I read this comic several times looking for one positive character trait, and she just doesn't have one. Like, this is somebody's therapy project of just like dumping all their shit into a comic and then throwing it in the drawer so they feel better about themselves. There is nothing fun about this comic. Don't read. Do not read Doghouse. I hate shitting on other people's work, but they can't all be gems. Duncan and Eddie, I can throw squarely into the C crowd. I'm pretty sure most people that travel in furry circles know about Duncan and Eddie. It's a cute um, alligator and goat boyfriends being cute alligator and goat boyfriends. There's not really any. It's more of like a joke of the day sort of comic, and they're just being cute, being boyfriends, holding hands. One of them is big and stupid and has a sweet tooth, and the other one is a serious college student who's experiencing good romance for the first time, etc., etc. Their character dynamic is very good. Um, the comic does lean a little too hard into the alligator boyfriend than the goat boyfriend, because I think uh, he's the crowd favorite, so the author kind of leaned hard into him. Unfortunately, like I said, there's not really any overarching story here. Um, I appreciate character growth and like beginning, middle, end as far as like storylines go. And Duncan and Eddie is more like cute thing of the day. Like there's nothing wrong with it. I don't dislike it. But, you know, it's middle of the road. There's a lot of gay romance and straight romance and lesbian romance comics out there. And while it is very well known, that doesn't mean it's like top tier, top of the line stuff. You know, it's very safe. It's very colorful. It's very good. Let's see what else. Jack, holy crap, one of the granddaddies of all furry comics. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it straight up here at the top of A. And the only reason it's not up here in S tier as far as like must read is because some people will not be able to stomach it. Jack follows the inner workings of hell. So it's very gory, it's very bloody, it's very merciless, like lots of body horror and rape and gore and horrible things happening to horrible people. And it waxes on about a vaguely Catholic set of rules. And we follow the Grim Reaper, Jack, who is a green rabbit who died, and he went to hell and became the sin of wrath. And the sins don't really have power in hell, but they do have a greater capacity to harm people. And the reason that he is the sin of wrath is because he caused the apocalypse. He is the reason there are no more humans anywhere, and that the furries and the anthros are the ones that rule the earth now. All the humans are dead because of him. And there are angels coming down into hell to do stuff, and purgatory plays a part in it as far as, you know, you lived an okay life but not good enough to go to heaven. You can hang out here, or you can be reborn on earth. And it's like 1,500 pages. This is like more than a novel. This would probably take several weeks for you to read, and it is phenomenal. But again, it's so gory, it's so nasty and bloody, and like cheeks ripped off, organs hanging out, blood, and just the nastiest things you've ever seen. But it is quite possibly one of the best and oldest furry comics out there. So if you can stomach it, this is probably one of the best furry comics in the world. What else? The Eye of Ramallock. Imagine Indiana Jones meets Friends, I guess. The big treasure hunt, the big, you know, my father has died. He left his journal to me. He was looking after this. He was looking for this treasure, and now I will go in his place. That kind of thing. The Eye of Ramallock is a lot of adventure and magic and chasing ancient relics and, you know, people dying and a lot of things. The only thing about this is that the Eye of Ramallock has very deep, very complex lore. So I'm not kidding, and this might be a damning statement. I'm not kidding when I say you might need a pencil and paper for this one, because there's names and dates and factions and people and connections and family ties and what did I say? Factions living and dead. The past is just as important as the present in this comic, and it was clearly written by somebody who knows how to world build, but they may have gone slightly off the deep end with that. So if you choose to read The Eye of Ramallock, bring pencil and paper, because this is not something you can read on your lunch break. This is for like the Five Nights at Freddy's crowd that really enjoy like digging in, finding the details, finding the coincidences, etc., etc. Not for the casual reader. I'm gonna give it a high B, probably, because it does actually outlive its premise. The characters do find and retrieve the Eye of Ramallock, and the comic just kind of keeps going. And whether or not it ought to have is up to your interpretation, but after that it kind of becomes like, who is sleeping with who, whose family drama is blah blah blah, what is this person about. The sense of adventure is kind of gone after a couple of hundred pages, and the comic just kind of keeps going. The author got really good at drawing hot girls, so there's a lot of like almost nudity in the latest pages. So if you want to go on an adventure and then come back home and bang a couple of coworkers and just keep living life, and that sounds good, then definitely check this out. But like I said, bring pen and paper, because it's not an easy comic to comprehend. It's not a lunch break comic. Um, the Blacksmith Shop, on the other hand, is sort of a lunch break comic, and I'd stick it pretty squarely in B. Um, it's about Snow, the blacksmith, who is a small, very cute wolf or fox, and that's the entire premise of the comic, is that he is unbearably cute, so everybody wants to be around him. He runs a little, like, JRPG blacksmith shop. He makes swords, he makes armor, he makes nails and horseshoes and things. And some people just come and buy things from him because he's cute and they want to be near him. So he's a nice guy. He doesn't really understand that he is walking weaponized cute. It's just cute. I keep saying the same word. It's cute for the sake of cute. There's no agenda here. There's no politics. There's no drama or even like an antagonist in this story. It's just something fun you can read on the side that's not super complicated, but it is very fun. What else? We've got, oh, not Fury, Blades of Furry. The first must read, The World of Battle Skating. Holy crap. Battle skating is a sport where it's like figure skating, but with two different people that are versing each other. And while you do tricks and try to impress the judges, you're also trying to knock your opponent off their skates, and the first person that gets knocked down loses most of the time. But you want to get enough points to go on to the next round, and it's very hyper competitive. It's like the Olympics. The only thing you're not allowed to do is draw blood. And unfortunately, one of the young and rising stars of the sport, his opponent ducks out on an injury, and he gets thrown up against one of the champions, who is secretly a vampire. And vampires in Blades of Furry are kind of a stand-in for like gay people or AIDS or things like that really scare like the prudes in the sports world. If word got out about what he is, he might be kicked out of the league, etc., etc., lose all of his medals. The only thing is, though, our young rising star is an absolute simp for this guy, and he finds out that he's a vampire and has to figure out what to do with this information other than like continue to drool over him. So they kind of get together based on this secret and become friends and eventually lovers, etc., etc. It's a very intense sports comic, which is kind of unusual given that it made up its own sport. The only thing is, this comic is on a rather long hiatus. I think they're a married couple. The married couple that draw and produce this comic, it's been on hiatus for almost 2 years now, but there's a lot of material. There's a lot you can read, a lot of extra artwork, extra things, side stories, etc., that go into this comic. And yes, I'm throwing it in the must-read category, even though it's on hiatus, because it's got a very recognizable art style. The world building is great. Battle skating is very fun and interesting and intricate. And the romance is also electric too, because, ballet and ice skating are very, like, sensual sports, if you know what I mean. And BL comics are already sensual and romantic. So you combine all of those things. This is kind of a very horny comic, but not in like a porno kind of way. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's very alluring. Yeah, it's a very alluring comic based on all the things that get mixed into the pot. So, Blades of Furry is definitely a must-read comic. Let's see. Ages of Nokori. Oh my lord. Alright. I'm gonna throw this in don't read because this is basically stolen. In Ages of Nokori, the Nokori are basically they were humans that were captured by a shadowy organization and morphed into animal people. At the same time, though, they were each given a seemingly random superpower a la X-Men. So imagine if you were captured, experimented on, turned into a furry, and then given a random superpower. That's what the Nokori are. Within the past 3 years or so, the Nokori have been given basically human rights, but they're on the run from whatever organization created them. So they have to be very careful, all of them. The only thing is, the main group of Nokori, I think there's like 12 of them, are exactly based on Eevee from Pokemon. There's a water Nokori, and a fire Nokori, and a love Nokori, and a psychic Nokori. And they are one for one just Eevee from Pokemon. Like even as far as their color schemes go, it's not even funny. And the main character, I've long since forgotten his name because I've wiped this comic from my memory. The main character, his power is either hidden or he doesn't use it because it's so powerful. It's implied to be like sunlight or holy or something. Plant life bursts into bloom near him, and he can also burn things to cinder without really meaning to. So whatever it is, it rages out of control, but he has a seal on his chest to make sure he doesn't use it, etc., etc. All the stolen character designs and kind of hokey, like the non-story that goes on just is really unimpressive. And the artwork is very pretty, don't get me wrong. Ages of Nokori is a very pretty comic, but too many of its elements are stolen from other things, and I am not impressed. So don't bother with that one. Forestdale. Forestdale is kind of a Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing. Kids being kids being kids. You've heard all these jokes, you've seen all these situations, the snowball fight story arc, the horrible math test on Friday story arc, the awkwardly flirting teenagers story arc, stuff like that. It's very warm and innocent and very joke of the day. Most of it is stuff you've seen before, so there's not a lot of like big surprises or anything, but it is very warm and very wholesome, with the occasional gut punch. Like I think there's a character in a wheelchair that they explicitly show the accident that she got into that put her in that wheelchair, and it's really heart-wrenching. There's another character who's adopted, and like they show the reason that he's adopted is that his mom overdosed and he was the one that found her body. So again, another gut punch, but like 98% of it is like Saturday morning cartoon. Let's go ride bikes. Let's play Ninja Turtles. Let's argue over like frisbees and play outside kind of stuff, like 1990s nostalgia heavy kind of stuff. Um, I would probably put it in either high D or low C, because I'm gonna go ahead and say D. It's inoffensive. The artwork is okay, but it doesn't really have anything to say, if that makes any sense. Like it's not a romance. It's a slice of life from when you were 10, and you've already been 10 years old, so you know all these jokes, you know all these situations. There's nothing here you didn't experience in real life already, aside from the occasional caveat about wheelchairs or drug overdoses. And again, that's the 2% that's just there for shock value. It's not a bad comic, but you've already lived this comic, if that makes any sense. It's not bringing... Forestdale isn't bad, but it doesn't really bring anything to the table, if that makes any sense. What else? I Think I Like You. I'm gonna put this up in must-read also, because it's one of the only furry comics that I actively follow. It is a gay romance between a firefighter who is a black wolf and a mailman who is a white bunny rabbit. And it's really wholesome and cute and follows its own storyline, to where at first they don't even speak. Like I think the first 7 or 10 strips or pages, like they don't even speak to one another. They just use like hieroglyphs for like polite conversation and stuff like that. And when the bunny actually gives his number to the wolf, he says, "Hello, my name is," and then they start using actual, speech, which I think was a great artistic choice. And then it sort of goes on as their friendship kind of develops. Sky, the bunny, is crushing on him hard, but he's got to know, is this guy gay? Does he look at me that way? And thankfully, it doesn't linger on that phase of the relationship for very long, because again, I really hate comics that pussyfoot around for 200 pages before they freaking get there and decide to get together. So it's very wholesome, very sweet. It's a little bit horny, but not like super. But it does progress at a speed that makes me happy. So we can see them as a couple. We can see them go on dates. We can see them, make out, or see what their various friend groups think of each other, etc., etc. It's concise. Yeah, that's what I want. It is a concise romance story that lets you experience all the moments that you want to experience. It doesn't wait to get there. It just fucking goes for it. And it's very satisfying and it's very cute. So I Think I Like You is a definite must-read. What else do we have? Roar Street Journal. Roar Street Journal is basically Sesame Street for adults. They talk about, taking care of your body, managing your money, taking care of your aging parents, etc., etc. It's like topic of the day. Very long strips, but very topic of the day stuff. Leo the lion decides that newspapers and news sources are so hyper negative that he wants to start a positive newspaper company, and he does, and he gathers up a menagerie of other animals from all walks of life with all different family ties and sexualities and attitudes and philosophies, and gathers them all under one roof to make a positive newspaper. And we follow them through the newsroom, through their walks in life, through all their meditations on, should I have a boyfriend? Should I coddle my aging mother or put her in a home? Should I leave the country to go find my siblings who are in a war-torn country? Should I really bite the bullet and try to become a doctor? There's a lot going on in this comic, but it is something that you might read relatively slowly because it hops topics really fast. And it is complete, actually. The author finished out and wanted to move on to different things, but there's like several hundred pages to this comic. So Roar Street Journal, I'm going to say, is a very strong B. I'd probably put it right about there. So middle B compared to the others. I'd put it above The Art of Silence, but not quite so thought-provoking as, say, Angel in the Forest or Eye of Ramallock. But it's very strong, and it has a lot to say. So if you want to, like, ruminate or philosophize on being an adult, and all the challenges and things you need to think about therein, Roar Street Journal is a great place to start. Let's see. The Wise Ways of the Wizarding Wisdoms, is again, a gay romance that basically takes place in a Harry Potter-esque world. I actually have a physical copy of this because I saw furries on the cover. I was like, oh, that's for me, and didn't realize it was a gay manga. But every chapter follows a different interpretation or struggle of what it means to be gay. And it's all male, unfortunately. There's no lesbians in this one, but like the lazy oaf that's with the uptight student, the nurse who is a unicorn, which is a rare breed, so how dare you be gay, you need to be straight and make babies, or, the two bats who are, who have no idea what kissing is, but bats share food with each other after they've chewed it up, so they kind of baby bird each other, so they discover what kissing is after that and try to decide if they like it or not. There's a lot of different, like, small stories in this one that I think it serves really well as, like, normalizing the worries and the baggage and the joys as well of, like, discovering and exploring the idea of being gay in a school setting, whether you be an adult or a student. So I'd probably put it at a high C. Again, I'm not sure if this one is online or not, but The Wise Ways of the Wizarding Wisdoms, say that 10 times fast, is a very, very good piece of gay fiction you should probably pick up. Whether you're gay or not. I mean, I'm straight, and I still enjoyed it. It's very good to kind of wax on and philosophize about the idea of romance, whether it's gay or straight, and I'm secure enough in my own sexuality, I can read anything and not worry about it, but it's very strong fiction that sits and makes you think, and that's very appealing to me. Better Days, created by Jay Naylor, a very big name in furry circles. This is complete. It follows Fisk and Lucy Black in, I believe, 1988, Georgia, in America. And they're a semi-conservative family. They kind of worship the military. Their mom is a widow. Their dad died in the military. Fisk is very opinionated. His sister is the Growing Pains character. They grow up throughout the comic. You have all the school days sort of story arcs, the the college years story arcs, and then eventually they do grow into adults, and the comic ends as they're heading out into their adult lives. But following these two twins, um, I forget how many hundreds of pages this one is. It's quite long, but between every chapter there is a time skip, so you can see them grow slightly older, grow slightly older, etc., etc. Occasionally it does get kind of preachy as far as the characters stop being characters and just become a mouthpiece for what the author wants to say. And he is a conservative, gung-ho military kind of guy, and he's kind of a bully on Twitter, so you probably shouldn't like go see this guy personally. But the artwork is phenomenal. The stories are like wholesome slice of American pie. Again, all the characters are very opinionated, so however much of that you can stomach. Um, it's inoffensive, I guess, if that's a good thing you might want to say, that I might want to say about it. So I will place it. I mean, it's Better Days. It's a big. It came out around the same time as Jack. Jack and Better Days were kind of the titans of the furry comic community for a very long time, and you have to be a certain age to remember both of them. But whereas Jack is deep, complex, and will probably last for a very long time on its art style alone, Better Days is safer, I guess, but I wouldn't dare give it anything lower than a B, just because it's a very important comic to the furry fandom, and I would practically put it up in must-read, if not for how much I know about the author and what a douchebag he is, and I have a really hard time separating art from artist, but I wouldn't dare give it anything lower than a B, so we're going to leave it at the top of B. I Do My Bully's Homework, a very cute, this one's probably the shortest one on this list, and I did unfortunately find out that this one has been abandoned by its author. Rodney is a ram who is in, I believe, high school, who is bullied into doing his bully's homework, but Rodney thinks that they are friends because he is so oblivious. He believes that, you know, his bully is putting his life in his hands, and that, you know, if things don't go a certain way, then his life will just be over. He's a very innocent character compared to everybody else, and I would honestly put him on the autism spectrum, because you can only get so oblivious before it becomes worrying. His bully, of course, comes from a broken home, so he's a sympathetic character. And the two friends that he has, one is a deeply closeted trans, and the other has serious fat-phobic and body issues. So the bully with the trans girl and the I don't want to call him the fat guy, the guy that is shamed because of his body. He's very self-conscious about his body. When those three bullies are together, they are horribly toxic with one another. And as soon as they are separate, they are generally nice people. So it's like a bucket of crabs. You know, they keep pulling each other down. Meanwhile, Rodney is bumbling his way between the three of them, trying to make friends with all three of them, and not realizing that some of the stuff he says sounds like really overtly sexual, and some of it is disarmingly nice, so they don't really know what to make of him on a person-to-person basis. But again, unfortunately, this comic has been abandoned, so I can't place it any higher than C, knowing that it will never be complete. So it's fun, it's funny, it's very clever, but it stopped, and apparently it's not going to get any more pages, so I can't place it any higher. Monotone Blue, another furry comic that I picked up at a bookstore because I saw furries on the cover and didn't think about it, and then I got home and it was a gay romance. So, um, let's see. School layabout cat Hachi notices the new transfer student who is I believe a skink. He's like a blue lizard, one of the lizards that can lose their tails in case of emergency. And he spies this new kid's tail, and it is blue, monotone blue. And fun fact about cats is that they see blue in really brilliant shades. More than people and other species do, so he's very physically interested in this guy. And there's a lot of, I don't want to say physicality because it's not a porno, but it's like a BL, like boy love kind of comic. That it treats high school romance very honestly. Like they don't try to dress it up as like soulmates or meant to be or super romantic or anything. It's very like physical. I like the way you look, therefore I will hang out with you. Oh, you are cold-blooded, I am warm-blooded. Let us cuddle so we can like balance out our body heat and that kind of stuff. It doesn't get like super sexual or anything, but it's very honest as far as like the shallowness or depths that high school romances usually kind of end up in. So I appreciate the honesty, despite like the furry characters, and it is a very strong, like single volume romance. I'd probably put it in like mid B. If you see it in real life, I'd say pick it up. It's a very good read. I do look at it on occasion just because it's like open and close. It's not a very long story. It's not a very complicated story, but it is fun. So, Monotone Blue, very strong B. Let's see, getting down to the end. Twin Dragons, fun for the sake of fun. Every 1,000 children is born with animal traits, and every like 1 out of 1,000 of them are born with animal traits of animals that don't exist, such as dragons. And the twin dragons move to a new school that is meant for people like them. They're called mythic, I forget. They have a name for them. Hybrids? Are they called hybrids? I don't remember. They're mythic something something, and they move to a new school that has a lot of animal kids and a lot of human kids because it's going to take like 3 or 4 generations for anthros to be considered normal people. So this comic is really just fun for the sake of fun. They go to a dinosaur museum because every kid has a dinosaur phase. They play Dungeons and Dragons together because, every comic worth its salt is going to have a D&D arc where you can throw all your characters into medieval attire and have them throw fireballs at each other, or the treasure hunt story arc where you're following clues from one set of people to another for birthday presents. There's no antagonist here. There's no drama. There's no politics. There's no romance. I mean, they're, I think, 12 and 13, or 12, 14, somewhere in there. Because the characters are so young, the stories are very innocent and just fun for the sake of fun, and that is very refreshing as far as furry comics go. I'd probably put it somewhere in the high C range. Like, you're not going to get anything deep out of this comic, but you will get, like, a lot of smiles, a lot of feel good, a lot of, there's not a lot of crazy, like, world building or anything. This is just kids going to school and having kid school adventures with furries attached. So, take that how you will. Last is Bunny and Wolf, which is basically the concept of beast stars applied to a medieval setting. Characters are separated between predator and prey species. The predator species are eating the prey species, and the prey species decided that they were going to start building castles and wielding magic and building armor and things like that to fight back. So the world is at a never-ending war, and the god of this world says that the strong should rule over the weak, no matter whom they are. So the rabbits could just as easily overtake the wolves should they have the will, the desire, the strength to do so, etc., etc. And this bunny girl is the only one to walk away from this horrible battlefield, and she collapses from blood loss and stuff and gets taken in by this wolf guy who has sworn off of eating meat for reasons unknown, and he stitches her wounds and tries to take her to like a village so he can be rid of her. And their traveling relationship is basically like, don't fucking touch me, that kind of thing. There's some slapstick, there's some drama, there's a lot of skimpy fantasy armor and things like that. So it is fun to look at. The world itself is based on very simple rules, but because of that it's very moldable. So if you like skimpy fantasy armor, if you like slapstick, if you like settings that are based on very simple rules so that it goes for easier, like just a backdrop for whatever the jokes might be, this is definitely good. But it does tread a lot of the same ground that Beastars does, so don't expect like super original plot lines or anything. And it is rather slow to update, probably one of the slowest ones here. So you need a lot of patience if you're going to dig into this one. There's already a lot here, like several hundred pages are still here, and it is still updating, but it is very slow. So if you read this, make sure you've got something on the back burner as well. As far as Bunny and Wolf goes, I would probably put it at like a low C. Not the best thing I've ever read, but I do like slapstick and I do like skimpy armor, so it's not bad. It's inoffensive. So I guess that's it. What was that, like 20, 22 different furry comics? And holy crap, this video is almost an hour long. So I'll leave a list at the end of this so you guys can look up these comics as you please, and hopefully I'll have edited this properly so you can find these comics as well. Maybe I'll do this again once I've reviewed another 20 comics. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We've got Blades of Furry and I Think I Like You at the top, and Doghouse and Ages of Nokori at the bottom, with a bunch of good stuff in between. I hope that was informative or helped you pick out your next furry comic read. So I will see you guys later. Have a good one.